What's up guys, it's Mike with Shallow Reefing, coming back at you with another video. And today, well, we've all been there. We've all been at the fish store and we said, oh man, I gotta have this coral. Now for me, I went to the fish store a couple days ago and I saw some corals. I was like, oh man, I have to have them. And I went back because I was like, well, hey, I can quarantine them. But I forgot I need to set up my quarantine tank downstairs. So today, I'm gonna teach you how to dip, acclimate, and quarantine coral, so that way you're not going to get any diseases in your main display tank. But before we do that, I gotta kind of fill this tank up and go over what I have in this tank and what everything is going to be going on in the QT tank. So let's get started. So I got a 20-gallon long. Now this was what I used to hold all the coral from the main display tank over here into this tank while I got it all set up. Now, perfect place to use well, it's a perfect tank to use for a quarantine tank. Eventually it'll be a future frag tank. So what I have running is a cheap LED light, Vipar Spectra pretty much. Essentially this is before those came out. I have a hang on the back filter. I got a power head, it's a Corellia, and then I got a heater. It's a 200 watts, so it's overkill. And I got a little auto top off. Now I could put a lid on this to kind of reduce the evaporation, but that's about it. I do have some frag racks in here and a little algae scraper, and that's it. And I do have underneath here, I have my auto top off, and this is, well, crap. I have all my dosing set up for the main display, and I do have, well, that was mounted better, but the power cord, all right, all the power supply for it. So let's fill this up. Now the best thing about this tank is it's right next to this main display tank. So work smarter, not harder. I'm just going to use a hose and drain it from the main display down into this tank. So let's get that started. And just like that is done. Sorry, I had to stop the hyperlapse halfway through because I needed to start the pumps, heat up the water, start the siphon on the hang on the back filter to pull everything up. But as you can see, everything is running perfectly right now. So let's get into exactly what we need to do if we want to make sure that these corals are doing well. All right, so we got 4 Cool Whip containers. The first container is going to be where well, first off, let me just say I've already temperature acclimated the corals. Everything should be fine. The tank in front of me should be up to temperature by the time I get all the corals in. So the first Cool Whip container on the left is going to be where I empty them out, well, one at a time, and I'm going to do a visual inspection. The next container is going to be a water rinse, a freshwater rinse. The next container is going to be a Coral RX dip, and then the last container will be a Coral MD dip by Brightwell. And then after all that, they're all going to be sitting in, so visual inspection, rinse off anything, something might fall off from the visual inspection that I miss, Coral RX, Coral MD, then I'll probably have another container with just tank water, and then I will take it and I will, you know, rinse off any of the medications on it and put it in the main tank. So let's do this. Time to bust out the old trusty toothbrush and manicure kit that has been used and abused. I have tweezers and some toenail clippers. Well, you're not going to use that. Some little picks in here that are going to get into all the crevices. Yes, I know they're rusty. I probably need to get a new one and use my good stuff, but it's lasted me this long. I'm going to keep doing it. So you can see, I saw, well, hopefully you saw in the hyperlapse at the one on the right at around 3 o'clock on the video, had a little bit of algae on it. It's like red algae, almost like a dragon's breath or something. Super weird. So pick that off. There were no real hitchhikers on them. So now I am in a 15-minute dip before I rinse them off, move them to this dip, and then move them into a like a tank dip, and then hopefully knock everything out and then put it in the QT tank. So already dipped the first corals. I'm going to move them from the top to the right and get the ones in the bottom and move them to the top one. Now I have only found one vermitid snail in here, and the trick to vermitid snails is after you break them off, you want to super glue over them. So I already super glued over it, think it should be fine. I do know that there was bubble algae in the tank that I did get these corals from, found no bubble algae on any of it. Now that's not to say that bubble algae won't pop up in the matter of 2 months. So the plan is to have these in quarantine for 2 whole months. I know it's gonna kill me to have them in quarantine, more corals in quarantine for 2 months, but that's kind of what you gotta do. And in between this, you can kind of see I have the turkey baster. I've been basting them with it and then trying to knock off anything. And I really haven't knocked off much except for one copepod. So pretty good, even though I knew that it was like a little bit of a risk. I'm pleasantly surprised that, you know, the corals are looking pretty healthy overall. Oh snap, I spoke too soon. Let's see, can you zoom in on that? So last time I had flatworms in the 20-gallon tank, I had to nuke the whole dang thing. And I did this exact same dipping process. Except I don't think I added freshwater dip in there. Pretty sure I didn't. Pretty sure I only did, no, I did do a freshwater dip. Actually, I think I did a fresh mixed saltwater dip before I put it in the tank after I did the Coral RX and Coral MD. So what I think I'm gonna do is, on top of everything, at the very end, I'm gonna put a flatworm exit dip. I don't even know how the heck it's gonna work, but I'll probably do a little bit of a flatworm exit dip on the corals at the very, very end. I know it's gonna stress them out a little bit maybe. I'm doing this many dips. You're not really supposed to mix and match dips. At least no one has really came up with a good dipping process, but that's probably what I'm gonna do. Now I did notice a flatworm, and you guys know I nuked a ton of corals trying to kill the flatworms. Actually, the corals are still up there, kind of nuked because of the flatworms. So yeah, that's the plan. Let's see if this works. I can't zoom in anymore, but you can see that one kind of moving down about 6 o'clock on here, moving left to right. That is a flatworm. Oh my God, and you guys already know my problems with flatworms. This isn't even a dip. This is just pulling them out and putting it on this little container here. Now over here, this is the freshwater dip, and you can kind of see I knocked off some more stuff. Oh, come on, focus, buddy. Yes, I knocked off some more stuff, some copepods, some worms. Do I have another flatworm? Maybe one other flatworm just with a freshwater dip. Now that I know there's flatworms, I'm gonna go a little bit extra on it. So the second dip was a success. You can kind of see, oh come on, don't freak out on me, camera. Arrgh. There we go. So you can see I got a worm off there. That's a little brittle starfish. Bottom left. Oh man, it's so hard for the camera to focus in on any of this stuff. There we go. Probably focusing in on the lights. And there were a couple more flatworms for that one. So now they are in the flatworm exit solution, because why not? So once those are in there, I'm gonna turkey baste them and then move those guys over to this solution after dumping it out and do Coral MD in it. So Daniel decided to help with the dipping process. It's not working out very well, is it, buddy? No. You wanna get in and play with everything, huh? The first round of corals are in the frag tank. Well, frag quarantine tank, let's call that. So got a little bit longer on these guys down here, and the flatworm exit dip, or flatworm exit water, where there's water and I just put flatworm exit in. I'm kind of swishing it around. Hopefully that does something. It didn't really knock off anything else, but I did knock off a bunch of flatworms on the second dip with the Coral MD. I'm thinking it required 2 dips in order to really knock these guys off. And just like that, all the corals are in. Now they are really, really upset. These micro lords over here, super unhappy. They are not happy campers. Let's see if I can block the light. Oh, come on. No, can't really see it top down, but you can see it right here. He is not happy. This one's not happy, but Fabia seemed to be doing okay. Just okay. You can kind of see the old coral skeletons I kind of put in between because yeah, those are the ones I killed when I tried to kill the flatworms last time, so I am not taking any chances. I triple dipped these corals and it seems to have worked. So hopefully I won't have spoken too soon and that everything is going to be good with all these corals. I'm really glad that I did as many dips as I did, because if I would have just done Coral RX and not done the Brightwell MD, I would not have caught the flatworms. So I put them out of the bags, put them in a container, kind of visually inspected it, rinsed them off, saw a little bit of copepods come off, and I think that's when the flatworm came off, and I was like, oh gosh, we gotta go ham on this. Then put it in Brightwell MD, or no, Coral RX. Then after that, for 15 minutes, put them in a freshwater dip, then Brightwell MD, then freshwater dip, then in tank water with flatworm exit, then freshwater dip, then back into flatworm exit, tank water, then freshwater dip, then into tank water, and then put them in the tank. And I did that for all the corals. I did them in batches of 4, but man, that was a pain in the butt for sure. Now that they are in the frag quarantine tank, timer starts today. Gonna keep them in here for up to 60 days. I'm not gonna pull them out any earlier, so that's what, is it June 1st? Oh my gosh, it's June 1st, so I got until August 1st with these puppies in here. And if I add any more coral in here, I gotta start the timer over, because you don't want to risk it when you got this tank over here. The main display is looking good. Don't have any pests in there yet. Gonna try to keep it that way. I did find a bristleworm in there, which, you know, some people say they're pests, some people don't. I'm under the opinion of they perform a service for the reef tank, but I really don't want many of them in the tank, or any at all, because I hate getting pricked by bristleworms. So that is it for the quote-unquote pests in the main display, which is none essentially. So we're gonna try to keep it that way. I'm going on, what, 7-8 months with no pests in the tank. I'm gonna try to keep it that way. No pests, no velvet, no ick, no fish disease, no nothings in the main display, and I'm just praying that I can keep this streak going. So that is my plan for the reef tank, and how to dip and acclimate and make sure you have no pests for any of your corals. Now, hopefully you guys follow similar procedures. I mean, I always did like a visual inspection and dipped them in Coral RX, but now that I have 2 dips, I don't think I'll ever go back to just using 1 dip anymore, especially because I get so much more off the second dip, and doing a freshwater dip in between. Technically I'm doing like 3 dips, and this one I did 4 dips essentially. If I lose a coral, I lose a coral, but I'm not gonna risk my tank. Got too much invested in it, too much time. I don't want to have like a flatworm infestation or anything like that, because God knows that is horrible. But that is my procedure, and I hope you guys like, you know, the content, and hopefully this helps some of you guys. Okay, I decided to film it one more time before uploading this video, but future Mike is here telling you how the dip went. So as you can see, some of the corals did really well. Now this coral here didn't do too hot. Focus in on it. There we go. So you can kind of see the skin's a little pale and retracted. Doing fine. This one down here though, not doing too hot. You can kind of see some of the skin, and it's not the greatest. It's kind of pulling off in some areas. And then the acan over here really is unhappy. So this acan is not doing well at all, but this acan over here is doing fairly well. So I'm going to chalk it up to the corals being a little bit stressed, because they were probably newly fragged, since there wasn't much growing on the frag plugs. Now what I'm doing to, you know, bring them back and nurse them back to health is doing a little bit of Brightwell amino, and also doing some Red Sea AB+. Now for this I'm doing about 5 to 7 milliliters of AB+ every night. And in the morning I'm doing a couple drops, like 3 to 4 drops in the eyedropper of the coral amino, and that's helping to bring these back. I can almost guarantee that this coral and this coral will be totally gone if I did not use the AB+ and coral amino to bring them back to health. Now hopefully these will be good, so I'll let you know in a couple months, well, about 2 months, how well the corals have done. Now these are about, what, 4 days post dipping. Now I know some of you are gonna say, well, you know, you dipped them in fresh water and blah blah blah. Well, yeah, I would rather have a dead coral than to let any of these flatworms get loose and go into my display tank. I got a lot to lose in the display tank. as opposed to $200 in corals here. If I lose one coral, 25 bucks. Who cares? 25 bucks versus $2,500 in coral. I'll take that trade-off any day, damaging the $25 coral. All right, guys. All right, that's all I got for you this time. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more, click the subscribe button, and don't forget to give me a like if you like the content. Hopefully I can do a little bit more DIY stuff or guides for any of the newer reefers out there. This is just what I do for corals now. Granted, I didn't start off this way. I kind of worked myself up to this, because once you have more and more invested in the tank, you really want to protect your investment. And dipping your corals and getting a QT tank that costs like 100 bucks is not a big deal. Well, probably costs more than 100 bucks, but you know, when you factor it all together and depreciation on the equipment, it's probably 100 bucks. But you could do this with like a 10-gallon tank. I even have a 4-gallon Aqueon Evo you could do it with if you only have like, you know, a small like 40-gallon breeder or something like that. You don't need a giant QT tank. 10 gallons would do you. You don't really need 20, and it's just going to help you out and become more successful in the long run as a reefer. And the whole point of this hobby is to share the wealth, share the love with other people, share the passion for the hobby, and hopefully I'm doing that with my channel. So if you want to stick around, give me a like, give me a subscribe, and I will see you next time.